Hello, folks, and welcome to another stream. My name is Luciano, and with me today there is Roberto.
Hello.
And what we want to do today is starting a new series where we are going to be doing some lambdas in Rust. It's something that we have done a little bit in the past, especially when we were doing some step function refactoring. We wrote some of these lambdas in Rust, but we want to start this from scratch, almost like a tutorial. But at the same time, we have a real use case that we want to work towards, which is going to involve creating an automation for a restaurant application that Robert is going to tell you a little bit about in a second. Meanwhile, I'm going to say hello to everyone in the chat. We have AJ, we have Tommaso, we have Astra Kernel. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Now I feel a lot of pressure. Anyway, I guess you might be wondering, why do we care about writing lambdas in Rust? And I have a long talk that explains all of that, but I'll give you the 1-minute version of it. And it's basically because Rust is a fast and memory efficient language. And guess what? When you deploy a Lambda function, you are charged based on the amount of memory you allocate and the time that your Lambda is running. So it is one of the best languages for you to save money because you can write very efficient software in terms of memory and time of execution. So you can reduce those two dimensions pretty much to the very minimum. If you know anything about lambdas, you probably heard about cold starts, which is another common problem. So because lambda is an ephemeral environment, every time that there is an event, it might trigger a new instance. It might need to generate, basically to spin up a new instance of that lambda on the flight. And if you have a user waiting for a response, that's going to take a little bit of extra time. So depending on the runtime, that time might be more or less significant or noticeable. With Rust, you can also reduce that cold start time to the very minimum because generally you can create very small binaries also that are very quick at bootstrapping. So that's another advantage. You can create lambdas that generally feel a little bit more responsive even in the case of a cold start. So hopefully all of that makes sense. If not, feel free to ask questions in the chat and I can give you more links later on about additional resources that you might want to look just to learn a little bit more about this topic if it sounds interesting to you. But with that being said, I will probably leave it to Roberto to showcase the use case.
Yeah, okay. So do you want to share my screen?
Yes. I think we are
The
seeing
use
your
case?
beautiful application.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. I am a super designer. So basically, there is a restaurant. This restaurant has an Android application, this one. This is a screenshot from it. And the owner of the restaurant creates the menu. When it creates the menu, it's doing that through an AirTable table and is inserting, I can show you, is inserting this one. In this table is inserting all the plates, all the dishes of the restaurant. And these dishes have a tag. Tags can be more than one, and they're used for two reasons. One, mainly to be able in the application to choose the dish without having to scroll through all the 150 or whatever they are plates. So you click on spaghetti and you will have your subsection of spaghetti in this tag. Then you have tagliatelle, then you have dolci. This is an Italian restaurant, obviously.
By the way, I just want
Spain,
to make people notice that the name of the restaurant is Mamma Mia, so it cannot get more Italian than that.
Yes, and some stuff are written in Spanish because this restaurant is in Arguineguín, that in Gran Canaria, that is a Spanish-speaking island. So, for example, there is the leche frio and leche caliente. So, warm milk and cold milk. But anyway, there are tags, and the owners asked me, can we sort the tag? Because when I am here in the application, I wanted to see the tag that I use the most on top. So I want to see pizzeria before pasta and ravioli because I'm selling more pizzas than ravioli. So he wanted a way to sort this. This application doesn't let you insert the menu from the application itself, because inserting the application from inserting the menu in the application from a phone is incredibly hard. The user experience is terrible. So I told him, look, insert the dishes here. Then the application will import this table. But to sort the tags, I need a list of tags. And so I created a second table with the list of tags and a sort order, numeric sort order, to be able to put the dishes in the tags for the dishes in the proper order. And so when you see in the application, you will see that pizzeria is first, because pizzeria is first. Okay, there is no foreign menu, so if a tag doesn't have any dish, it's not popping up, obviously. And the last ones will be digestivi, ristorante, and bere, that are here, ristorante, bere. Okay, this is digestivi, ristorante, bere, probably spaghetti. Because he has two spaghetti, capital case spaghetti and lowercase spaghetti. So the lowercase spaghetti, capitalized spaghetti is empty, so it's not showing up. But anyway, how do we keep? I was not able to ask this guy to also remember, when you add a tag here, remember to add a tag in the second table with this appropriate case of the letters and so on. So there's an automation doing this for him. When a new tag is found, it's put at the end with sort orders plus 10 from the previous maximum. And that's the job. Then, if this guy doesn't want the tag to be at the end, it goes in AirTable. It changes the order with changing the number. So the spaghetti becomes 115, and it goes there. And the automation is just in charge of taking the list of tags that are in the menu, taking list of the list of tags that are in tags, look if there is any new tag, and if there is a new tag, let's create the tag in this table. So this is everything that the script is doing. This script already exists in Python, obviously. I can show it to you. I think I have it here. So this script has the two links to the two AirTables table. It has a secret header with the authentication, and is doing a first loop to get all the items. Is a while true because we have paginations here to handle, because AirTable only gives you 100 items per call, and the menu is bigger than 100 items. So I have to do more than one call, adding to the records list. Then I have also to do the same to read the tags, same logic. We have less than 100 tags, but I kept the same logic of pagination because you never know if the future becomes a very big restaurant and you have thousands of dishes. Then is doing the difference for each tag in the menu. If the tag is not already present in the tags, is taking the next sort order plus 10. So the biggest sort order field that you found plus 10 is creating through a post to the same URL of the tags that we have used to read, is doing a post there with a list of records. And done. Basically, is only doing this. Is every half an hour there is a cron in a system, and is running this. So it's taking the list of the menu, it's taking the tags, look if there is any new tag to create, and create them. That is everything that this script is doing.
Sorry, Roberto, we have a question in the chat by Tommaso saying, are there libraries for Airtable in Rust? Honestly, I'm not aware. There might be. But I mean,
no idea,
it should be a simple enough HTTP request, so probably we'll be using request to do that.
The get is just get with a parameter in get that is called offset that starts at 0, and then it is what it was in the last response to 1. So, and the headers only contains the authentication, nothing more. And this is to get records. Then yes, the response contains records, record contains fields, fields contain tag and sort order. So we are parsing all of this like dictionaries. Those are JSON that come back from AirTable here. And to create a record, there is this structure here that is records, a list, fields, and the other fields that we see in our table here, created data and updated data, are automatic fields that Airtable creates for us every time there is a create or an update. So we can see that the last one was created in October. So from October, there was no changes. No, this one was created in 19th of December. Okay, this one is quite new.
Oh, we got a raid by Bruckzerger. Thank you so much. How are you today? Hello, everyone.
Thank you. So, like, to answer, this is a library for Airtable. Probably is not needed with request. We can do probably everything because it's nothing complicated. But if there is one, we can take a look. I don't know if we want to make the compilation time even slower.
Yeah, no, I guess it would be fun to create all the structures. And because, of course, we don't want to deserialize JSON field by field, but we probably want to just copy the data into a struct. So that could be an interesting one to do. But I guess even with a library, that might be a little bit of a challenge just because Airtable is a spreadsheet. So you can organize the data in whichever way you want. So even if there was a library, you will probably still need to create your own structs to define the set of fields that you need to use for every spreadsheet. But yeah, I guess we'll figure that out. Like, we haven't done this before, this specific exercise before. So everything we're doing today is going to be live, like real coding, trying to solve problems.
We can try to call with curl and get an idea of what they are giving us back. Do you want to try?
Yeah, we can try that.
So let me
as
see.
you prepare all of this, I'm just going to mention for the people that just joined us in today, we are working on a Lambda in Rust. So a Lambda running on AWS to automate some data, I guess. I'm just going to say it like that it is used in a mobile application that is used by a restaurant to manage the menu. So they take the orders through this application. And this application is relatively simple, so it doesn't really have a proper backend, but it uses an Airtable spreadsheet as a way to import the data. So what we want to do, the automation is just going to fiddle with the data that exists in Airtable.
How it is authorized authentication? What is the header for the authentication?
Authorization, I think it is. Yeah, that should do.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of JSON.
Push it.
Do you have
sudo
JQ?
apt install? Probably not. Install. I'm probably also not able to write, so bear with me. I hope I remember my password. Yeah, I like it. Install all of it. Okay, let's try again. Okay, so.
Nice. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. It should be relatively easy to do this.
This ID comes from my table. These are because this is the ID from Airtable that identify the single record. The fields, inside the fields there is name, a list of tags as strings, price takeaway, enabled, created data, updated data, and the sort order. So these tags can be empty, probably. There are some with empty, but we can always declare a vector. So yes, it could be possible to create a struct that is mapping this, and then just with ser deserialize it in proper objects. Then I just care about the tags, but as an exercise, we can do all of it.
Okay, Tommaso is asking, try to put a high offset. I guess he wants to see if there is an empty page or something like that.
So if offset 100 should still give us back something.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we might also have error responses that we might need to manage.
An offset is this. Sorry, I have to pass.
Oh, right. An offset is like cursor-based thing.
Yeah.
So
and
you're not gonna have
and the last page doesn't have an offset. So you know that there are no more rows because there is no offset in here. And if we look at the Python script, this is clear because lazy duck typing. Here I try to get the next offset out, and if I get a key error, I break the loop. So
okay, fair enough.
I'm going on. I just initialize the offset to 0. That by, I think, is written somewhere in the AirTable documentation. Offset 0 is give me from the start. And then you have the next offset in form of a token, a string, something.
Okay, so I think we have two options now. I think that the problem space is clear enough to me. I hope it's clear enough to everyone else, but feel free to ask questions if that's not the case. So we could either do like a CLI script, so like just a main, just to as a first quick Rust implementation that we can run locally, and then convert it to a Lambda and deploy it to AWS with a schedule, or the other way around. We just create a simple Lambda that just like an hello world, deploy to AWS, and then slowly we actually implement the functionality we want. I don't know if people have a preference.
I think the second one, I prefer the second one personally.
Okay, so we can see a little bit more of AWS.
Hello world Lambda, and also because I want to see how do you try locally something that is already a Lambda.
Fair enough.
Because,
okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we should do, and we already did this offline, but there is an amazing tool that you can use. Of course, first of all, you need to have an AWS account, you need to install the AWS CLI, you need to create credentials. So we are giving all this stuff for granted, assuming that people know how to do all of that. If not, we can give you more details. Then once you've done that, you can interact with AWS. And there is an amazing crate called Cargo Lambda that we already pre-installed, gives you like a cargo extension. And you can install it with cargo install Cargo Lambda, or if you don't have cargo install, you can do cargo install Cargo Lambda. It's just going to take a little bit longer because it's going to build the entire code base in Rust rather than downloading a pre-compiled binary. Once you have Cargo Lambda is basically like a toolkit that allows you to scaffold a new Lambda project in Rust, build it, and deploy it. So it's going to be very convenient because it's going to save us from having to do a lot of boilerplate kind of stuff. So we're just going to use this CLI to do some of the work for us. So I guess the first step would be if you already have you are in the right folder, you can just say Cargo Lambda new, and that's going to help us to, it's like a guided interactive process where we can create a new hello world type of
Lambda. Have to do that in the folder that will be the project, or from the parent folder of the folder that will be the project?
Good question. I think you can do both. So if you don't have a folder yet, I think if you use Cargo new, that is going to create a folder for you. So try to do a --help first. I'm not sure if it's just going to be totally interactive and ask you all the parameters. Okay, you can even specify a template, but I think if you just do Cargo Lambda new, it will ask you for all the details. Let's see. No, you need to specify the name. Okay, so it is a bit interactive.
No.
It is not an HTTP function, so you can say no. And now it should tell you which event do you want. And we want an event bridge schedule event. Let's see if there is one. I think that event bridge one, I saw one, should do.
How is called?
Or CloudWatch event. One of the two should work.
This one?
Either bridge? This one or the CloudWatch event.
You tell me. Can we change it later?
We can always change it later, but let's pick the event bridge one for now. And to be fair, in this particular case, it doesn't really matter that much because we just want an event that runs on a schedule. You say like every half an hour, right?
Yeah.
And we don't really need anything from the event. Like it's not like we are getting
No,
an input.
we just need the
we just need a trigger that starts. So this is useful when you are actually trying to read something from the event because it's going to give you all the structs and it's easy. It's going to give you already a deserialized event. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. Like it could be anything because as long as it's going to be able to deserialize it correctly, of course. And I think this should work. Now, Rust Analyzer needs probably a little bit of time to index everything. Okay, but what is the code base at this point?
We have a cargo toml with Tokyo, events.
Yeah, AWS Lambda events is the crate that you can use to basically get all the default events.
Yeah, here. That was a dependency here with feature event bridge. Because otherwise it install all the possible structures that you don't need.
This way you can limit only to the ones you need.
Yeah, I don't get why it put the use on the same line, but
I guess it's code that is maybe programmatically generated. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but a good format fixes any problem.
Okay.
And here is complaining missing generic for struct.
That's interesting. I guess it's just a Rust Analyzer, or it didn't really. Oh yeah, because I think event bridge event might be generic because you might have, if you were triggering your own custom events in event bridge, you can specify details, a detail section where you can put whichever data you want. So probably there is a generic there that you can pass to deserialize whatever. I think we can just say hash map string string for now and it should be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, expected one generic argument. Okay.
String to string or
you know what, we can do something even simpler than that. Again, because we don't really care about the event, we can install JSON and then just use a value, generic value. So it's not even going to try to deserialize anything. And then when we test, we can even pass an empty object, which is going to make our life easier.
Okay, so what we take as an event of type?
So keep Lambda event, because Lambda event is kind of a wrapper on the, yeah, it describes the event itself. And then the inner type, you can just say value with uppercase V. And I think we need to install set.json as well.
Okay. So cargo add
serd_JSON. Yeah, Tommaso was suggesting a unit type, but I think if we use a unit type, then in real life, when we're running this in AWS, it's going to try to deserialize whatever object we get from Event Bridge into a unit type, and it might fail. So I think going with a value is a little bit safer right now. Okay, so that should be API. Now, how do we run it locally? Right? That's probably the first question.
Cargo run? Nope.
So there are two commands. The first one is Cargo Lambda, so Cargo space Lambda. So you always need to use Cargo space Lambda as a entry point for the Cargo Lambda toolkit. And you can split your terminal. And the first command is Cargo Lambda watch, which is going to start like a local emulator, which interactively is going to recompile in the background every time you do a change.
So let me go here. You said Cargo Lambda watch.
Okay. It is running, even though there was a warning because...
Running.
Oh yeah, because we
never
didn't use
used.
the event. Yeah, fair enough. And now in the other term, you can say Cargo Lambda invoke and do an help, because I don't remember exactly the arguments. Okay, so we need to specify, you can probably specify dash dash data ASCII and then pass the curly braces, empty curly braces. And then we probably, do we need to specify anything else? Probably not. Okay, null, because right now we are returning null, right? So let's try to change the code base and return something a little bit more meaningful. Yeah, let's do a debug of the event. Now, I think there we still see null, but in the other terminal, we should see the debug. Didn't we?
You mean here?
Yes.
No, it was still building, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
context.
now we see
a Lambda event with all of this.
Because a Lambda event is not just the event itself. There is a...
Okay, so the payload is what we specified. So if here we say...
hello world, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, hello world. We'll see a payload of an object to a string called hello. So this is our payload. But we also have all the context that comes from the Lambda itself. So with deadline, that is probably the running time.
Yes, so this is the idea that every time you run a Lambda function, you always have this concept of a context. And context is giving you information about the execution context. So not the event itself, but more the execution context. And I don't know if this one is complete enough, because this is an emulator, a local emulator, because I think in production you get a lot more information. For instance, you can even get, at least in Node.js, you get what is the version of the runtime that you are using. You get how much time do you have before a timeout, which probably we get there. Yeah, we get the deadline. So all information that you can use to write code that maybe needs to be dynamic, specifically on the environment that you are using. We have an interesting suggestion from Tommaso. He's saying that set the JSON as a struct called raw value, which for this particular use case should be a little bit more efficient, because it's not even going to try to deserialize, but just, if I understand correctly, keep the value as a string. So maybe we can try to switch that to a raw value. Thank you for the suggestion there, Tommaso. Now, is it a special, does it require a special flag? I'm not sure about that. Let's check in the docs.
You mean a special feature?
Yeah, feature flag, sorry. Oh yeah, we need to enable a feature called raw_value. So
okay,
version, yeah, you need to do all this dance.
I could have done this probably from the command line, but lazy. How is called?
Raw RAW_value. Perfect.
But now
is
cargo
is
cargoing. Yeah,
cargo is cargoing. Let's see.
Now it complains, and if I go here, and we import value raw value. Okay. Now it's complaining that the size of type str cannot be
Oh, you probably need a reference to a raw value then. So if you put an ampersand in front of it. Okay, maybe that will work. But now, why does it complain? Oh, because, okay, we cannot use raw value then. Because I guess the signature of that requires for the argument to be deserializable, and raw value is probably not deserializable. I don't know, Tommaso, if you have any suggestion, but probably easier to just revert to value. Okay, but good suggestion, I guess, in general, when you don't have this kind of
in general, but yeah, for this time, let's be lazy. It's just an empty struct. Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do next?
Lambda is not friend. How do we upload this Lambda to AWS?
So the simplest way is that you can do Cargo Lambda, I think it's called release, but there is a command which will do everything for you. So we'll build it in release mode, package it, deploy it to AWS, and then we can check it in the AWS console. So we can try that.
Or we want to jump straight to SAM.
It might be useful to try this because then we can show what is the difference.
Okay, sure. So let me find the right terminal. So you said Cargo Lambda deploy release.
I think release. Well, let's test my memory.
Okay, Cargo Lambda. Cargo Lambda. There is a deploy.
Deploy. Okay, my memory is bad.
Deploy. Okay, Cargo Lambda build. Then deploy.
Interesting.
Why
you need to install
Zig?
Zig. I think it needs Zig because it's gonna need to cross-compile your Lambda for. I don't know if it by default uses the Graviton architecture, but yeah, it needs to compile a binary that is gonna work in the Lambda environment.
Okay, I hope this is not taking too much because yes, I didn't have Zig on my machine. Sorry. I was not aware that we needed Zig.
Yeah, it's interesting that Zig is becoming kind of a standard for cross-compilation.
No.
Okay, now it is actually building the Lambda. And as we do that, Roberto is going to be very slow. So I'm going to have to tell jokes and entertain you. Or you can ask questions and I can try to answer.
Now probably I'm moving in slow motion.
Oh, you cannot ask questions to Roberto because it's going to be in slow motion. He can answer later. That was the question, by the way. Roberto has time to think about that. Okay, now you can answer.
Okay, so I have to say that I'm not a fan of typed languages, but if I have to use a typed languages, I would use Rust. Because at least the types make sense. They are there to help you. No, are not there just to fight against you. And if I have to choose a compiled language, I would choose Rust nowadays. Obviously, if you ask me what you do for a prototype, no, I'm doing a prototype in Python. I'm not doing a prototype in Rust. But for example, at work, I'm trying to rewrite a service from Kotlin in Rust because I just think that the usage of, compared to a JVM, the usage of memory and this service is just relying information to other services. So I think that would just be using so much less memory and less machines, and we can spawn so many more instances. That would be just fantastic.
That could be an
okay. So Cargo build was done. Cargo deploy.
Now this might build again.
No, please.
Because it might need to build in release mode. So let's see what happens.
At the moment, it's verifying role access. This can take up, okay, deploying the function.
So it didn't need to rebuild. So probably builds already in release mode.
But this was unoptimized debug info, so don't know. But well, we can go and look into AWS what we have, right? Note here. Now we have to find the right. I think is this one. What is it?
That's why your machine is so slow. You have too many Firefox.
Yeah, all my Firefoxes. Where are my Firefoxes? Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so if we go in Lambda,
refresh.
Oh, we have a Lambda tags here.
Yeah. Okay, and now we can talk about why this approach is not always ideal, or well, most of the time it's not ideal, because, for instance, it didn't create a trigger for us.
No.
Because effectively, we have no way to specify the trigger. We just say, take the binary, zip it, publish it as a Lambda. So we don't really have a way to define, I guess, all the dependencies for this particular piece of infrastructure. So in AWS, you are deploying infrastructure, and very rarely you deploy infrastructure as one unit alone, like in this case, one Lambda. Generally speaking, when you deploy a Lambda, you might need special permissions like policies to access, I don't know, services like DynamoDB, S3, whatever. You might want to create a DynamoDB table or an S3 bucket. Or, for instance, you might want to specify different configuration options for this Lambda. What is the trigger? What is the amount of memory? What is
this Lambda, for example, needs an authentication token, or you are coded in the code, or you have to specify that
environment
somewhere.
Variables, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So the way that you generally do all of this stuff, of course, you can come back here and add all these details manually, but this is not going to be
you can add a trigger now.
Exactly, but it's not going to be very maintainable long term. Actually, can you create, do you have an event bridge schedule there as an option? Rather than...
we can create
oh yeah, schedule, that's the way you do it, yeah. I can never remember the UI.
Cron 030 quest. No, sorry, what are the is time, hours, day of week? I don't remember.
I always use a website that gives me the guided version, like Cron for Dummies.
Let's see where you go with here.
If I can find it again.
Okay. Not very useful. Star. Is it correct? Let's see. Or is 30 seconds or is 30? Okay, you have to give me 30 minutes.
Cron Guru, that's the one. Thank you very much, Ilteod.
So, is this cron correct? Channel, can you read it?
Okay,
ask the ChatGPT. Yeah.
Also that, yeah. Yeah, there is this crontab.guru where you can try to copy paste your cron job and it will give you a description.
So, crontab.guru. Oops.
Yeah, nice.
Day of month.
Wait,
no, so it's not that.
It's not liking something.
Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure that the AWS cron are exactly cron. So
when you put the cron syntax, it should be, but I'm not going to bet on that because there is always an exception around the corner when it comes to AWS.
Yeah. How do you edit this? My God, the AWS console is so dumb.
Yeah, and
Also
that's
because
another reason why we should be
look,
using infrastructure as code.
look, this is valid, and is also telling you that it will run every 30 minutes.
Perfect. Okay.
So I think it's a dialect of cron. This one. It's not exactly a cron, but as you can see, those are the next 10 triggers, and is every half an hour. It makes sense. Now, do you want me to remove the trigger just to be able to create that with...
I think it will be replaced when we do infrastructure as code, so don't worry. Maybe one thing you can do is to do a manual invocation. So what you can do is in the tabs there, you can go to test. No, sorry, the tabs below, between the two boxes there, yeah. And I think if you click on test there, yeah, already ran it, was super fast, and you got back null, and you should have some logs there.
Yeah, we have our debug here.
So, of course, this is going to run on its own every half an hour, but here we are testing it with just a manual invocation.
Yeah. Oh, we have something more in the context, like where the data are logged, the memory is 128 megabyte instead of... and this way you can't even specify what kind of configuration of memory and CPU you want.
Exactly, yeah. So I think you can pass some CLI argument to specify some of the stuff, but there are limits, and of course it's not ideal for kind of longer term maintenance of this Lambda.
Yeah, because ephemeral storage, memory, timeout at 30 seconds. Okay. Well, we are not running longer than 30 seconds for sure, doing nothing, but yeah. So
okay, so the next step is that we can do proper infrastructure as code, and there are different tools that you can use to do that, like Terraform, CloudFormation, CDK, Pulumi. There are like so many. The one that I use the most with Rust, and I find it the simplest, is SAM, which is kind of a, I guess, slightly improved version of CloudFormation. So you need to install the SAM CLI. I'm going to drop the link. You already installed it, but I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And SAM means Serverless Application Model because originally they built this I guess, slightly higher level version of CloudFormation to make it easier to deploy serverless application. But in reality, you can use it for everything because it's still compatible with CloudFormation. And so you already have it installed. And the way it works is that you create a file called template.yaml, and then you write a description, structured description of your infrastructure in that file. So
can we use a SAM init, or is going to destroy
let's see what happens. It might be a good starting point. I think it will create another folder, but then we can move things around.
Yeah. Which template would you like to use? AWS
you go with the quick
template
start.
Yeah, one. Oh God. Which AWS quick starter application you want?
Let's go with Hello World example.
Use the most popular runtime and package type?
No, because you want to use Rust. And then you can give it 23, the last one. Rust provided AL 2023. And now you don't want to enable X-ray for now.
Okay.
And you don't want to enable application insights because all of these things have extra cost and we are not using them right now. You might want to enable structured logging in JSON, I guess. Yeah. Okay, give it a name. I think it's going to create a subfolder and then we'll refactor later.
Okay, so command you can use next. Go in the folder. Yes, it created a folder. Some pipeline init bootstrap. Validate the template. Validate. Test the function. Some sync stack watch. Okay.
I
So
will just
if
say
we
let's
go to
go to
VS
the
Code,
code. Yeah. And if you show the
we have a
template
bunch of
YAML, that's probably the most interesting bit. So there is, of course, a bit of
install
a
YAML.
boilerplate.
No, install nothing. Go home.
But basically, you see already that you can do. So the initial part is a bit of a boilerplate, right? Because you always need to have that AWS template format version that transform. You can have a description or not. That's on you. Then you can have this global section, which is basically if you had multiple Lambda functions, you could specify a global default timeout and a global default memory size. Otherwise,
timeout
you can
is
also...
minutes, because I hope it's not seconds.
No, this is seconds, so you probably want to bump that up a little bit. Okay. Memory size, I guess for Rust 128 is probably okay.
Fine.
Generally, I find that 256 is a little bit better just because in AWS Lambda, you don't get to choose the networking speed and the CPU. They will increase automatically if you increase memory.
They are tied to the memory. Yeah.
So sometimes it's a little bit better to waste, so to speak, a little bit of memory, even though in Rust you might not need that much memory, but you get better performance just because you have more CPU and more networking speed. Okay, this logging configuration, by the way, I think is new. I haven't seen it before, but I know that they made the login system more flexible, so maybe that's why now it's better to specify explicitly that we want JSON logs. Okay, now resources, probably you don't want to call it hello world function. You probably want to call it something else, like, I don't know, synchronize menu or something like that.
Okay, is a build method Rust Cargo Lambda.
Okay,
here.
this one is important
important
because basically what SAM needs to know, SAM of course supports multiple runtimes. In Lambda you can use Python, JavaScript, Rust, Go, C++, Ruby, .NET, whatever. Like it supports so many different languages. Some of them you just need to zip the source code, like Python or JavaScript. Some of them you might need to do like a build phase. So with this metadata thing, we are basically saying this Lambda requires you to build the source using Cargo Lambda, and we will see that there is a command to do all of that.
Then code URI is taking where is the Rust code for this Lambda. We will change this. Okay, I think we will copy this in the root and change a couple of parameters.
And point to dot because our cargo toml is in the root.
Yeah.
So
okay.
let's do
Let me do that before I forget. So let's go to this new file. We change it in dot.
Just dot should be okay.
Yeah.
Now, architecture,
events.
you don't necessarily need to be x86-64. It can even be ARM, but I don't remember what is the value for that.
Any problem if we leave x86-64?
No, I guess if you use ARM, it's generally a little bit faster and cheaper.
Okay.
Now
true.
you probably don't get that much. Yeah. So the value is ARM 64. I have it here. All lowercase.
But I think then my machine should cross-compile. I think there is no problem
cross-compile Cargo Lambda, no problem.
My machine is Intel, is an i7, so it will cross-compile.
Okay. Now the event is the interesting part. So here is assuming that you want to do an API, which is not what we want to do, because otherwise this is also going to provision an API gateway and create an API event. So to change it to a schedule event, I don't remember the syntax, so let me search for that. SAM. Okay, so the event type is, what is it? Object describing a schedule. Let me see if there is an example I can send you. Yeah, I will send it to you somewhere in private. But I can also put it here in the chat for people to follow. It's a long link.
Is the same I just opened, or is a different one?
So this one is SQS. Is there something called schedule there? This may be easy to find. Oh yeah, this one.
Guy,
This one should,
type
yeah.
schedule. Okay, so I'm taking all of it. It was here on the side.
Yeah, you just need to replace type from there, yeah.
Well, and also the properties are different. Oh God, where it was indented, I forgot.
I think that's correct, because sync tags is the name of the
it's-
event. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one easier. Oh. So, and here we have our cron that we created before. That was star 30. Let me see if I still have that. Yes. Tag.
Okay.
Name my schedule, name sync tags, description sync
Tags every 30 minutes.
tags
Or like that.
every 30 minutes, enabled true. Okay, outputs. I think we don't have outputs for our.
We don't need outputs. No, outputs is generally convenient when, for instance, here it's creating an API gateway. An API gateway is going to create a URL for you, which is going to be randomly generated by AWS. It can be a convenient way. As soon as you deploy, it shows you that URL, so you can immediately invoke the API. But in our case, we are not provisioning anything like that, so we can remove the outputs. So I would remove this section.
Let's get rid of this session completely. Good. So other stuff that was automatically generated is this SAM config toml.
Mm-hmm. Which you
Do I
probably
need to copy
want
that
to
to the
copy
root?
it over. And it's something that we will need to use later for the parameters.
Okay. There is a README that I don't care.
Probably you don't care, yeah.
There is a git ignore. Well, I can copy it.
You might care. Yeah, you might need to merge them. Or just add target to the bigger one.
I'm still copy and paste enabled. Move to trash. Okay, we have all our git. The README, well, let's copy the README, who cares? Okay. Then there is the Rust app that is not to copy because we have our own app already in the root. And then there is an event with an event JSON.
Which we don't care because this is an HTTP event and we are not going to need to use this HTTP event. So this is more if you want to run it locally. And you want
this is created to run locally the HTTP Lambda.
Yeah. Another thing you could do with SAM, if you were building an API, you can start like a local simulator where you can literally call the API on localhost with your browser or Postman or curl or whatever. But here it's not something we are going to do.
Okay, so now that we did all of this,
okay, you need to do
this folder. Can I remove it?
Yes, yeah, you can.
Okay, I have this.
Okay, now you can do
Let me also
SAM
do a
build. The first thing you can do.
SAM build.
And what is this gonna do is gonna, oh yeah, you need to enable beta features because the Cargo Lambda integration is beta. So what this is gonna do is actually gonna build for the right architecture and create a package for you. And then what you can do is you can do SAM deploy. Now you will go in slow motion, yes. While this is happening.
So I will start to
So this is question times. If you have questions, go ahead.
Yeah, probably.
Like, what's your favorite dish from the Mamma Mia restaurant? Rainbow CPU, yes.
Oh, probably now I can talk.
Yes, now you are in almost real time.
Almost real time, yeah. Only half of the CPU is used. No, now I'm back to be frozen.
Oh, it was just installing the ARM toolkit, toolchain, and now it is actually compiling it. Okay, so that's why. But hopefully this is the first build, so this is the slow one. After that, it should be reasonably faster.
Okay, build succeeded.
Okay, now you can do
Can you hear
SAM
me now?
deploy, -- guided. I will do that one.
Okay, SAM deploy -- guided this way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like the stack name. AWS 1, cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Allow to create YAML roles.
You
Yes.
need to
It
create
is
roles
creating YAML roles
because
for the Lambda.
for instance, just to write in the logs, it needs permission.
Yeah.
No, don't disable rollback. Yes, this is going to update your SAM config toml.
Config.
And default is fine. This is more if you want to have multiple environments like development, production, Q&A, whatever.
Yeah. So it's going to add a role, it's going to add permissions, it's going to add a rule for the event, and it's going to add a Lambda function. The previous one stays there, is overwriting it?
Yeah, no, it stays there because so the
Names are
difference
not
here
mentioned.
is that we are using a CloudFormation stack. So that basically means that we are telling AWS that there is a set of resources that need to work together in a stack. So it's creating everything from scratch, and it's going to use the stack name as a reference for this application. So from now on, if you deploy with the same stack name, you are going to update this stack. Otherwise, you will create a new one if you change the stack name. Before, we just shipped a Lambda without a stack. So it's going to stay there, and you need to manually go and delete it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here I say yes.
Yes. And this should be reasonably quick because all of these resources are quite easy to create.
And there are only 4 of them.
So when you go back to your Lambda terminal, you should have 2 different Lambdas.
Now I have to find it.
Yes, say yes.
Okay, not yet. Okay, yeah, this. And okay, I can delete the old one later on, and this one is the new one.
Mm-hmm. And it has
That
a bit of
should
a
have a
fancier
tricky.
name to avoid conflicts, basically. So it gives you also that suffix there. Oh, did it fail?
Parameter schedule expression is not valid. Okay.
Okay, didn't like the expression somehow.
Because it's not a rate, it's a cron. God,
Right.
my fault.
I think the rate you might specify like something simpler, like 30 minutes, but
Yeah, but I like the hard way. I like
okay.
crons. Now I have to wait for the rollback before triggering new one, right?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. But the rollback is a good thing.
He was not able.
Because if you were already in production and people were using this Lambda, with the rollback enabled, people are not going to be able to access the new version of the Lambda until the deployment is finished and committed. While if you disable the rollback, it's just going to deploy whatever. And if it's an half broken deployment, it will go to production half broken. So
yeah, I just don't get why it's taking so long to roll back.
Because I think it's deleting the entire stack since it was the first deployment.
Yeah, but it was there are free resources in this stack.
Yeah, CloudFormation can be a little bit slow.
I was complaining about Terraform. I will never complain again.
No, that's actually an argument in favor of Terraform. Most people will say that Terraform is generally faster than CloudFormation, so stop complaining about Terraform.
Exactly. I agree. I can say that my machine is doing nothing, so it's not my fault. Oh, look, it moved. It moved. Okay, let's try again. Oh, guided probably was not needed anymore this time, right?
I think it's still going to use all the parameters from before, but yeah, I guess you didn't need it anymore.
Okay, let's see if this time.
That's what?
File with the same data already exists. Skipping upload. Initial deployment.
Oh, it's still doing a rollback complete.
Yeah, but why then
Can you go to your AWS console? Okay, if you refresh there, you probably don't see that anymore. But if you go to CloudFormation, you should see the stack. Rollback complete. Okay, so that should be, I think now you can deploy.
Nope.
When calling the create.
Should I nuke?
Okay, let's nuke it.
Hmm?
I think it's just a matter of time, but let's nuke it. Yeah.
Okay, let's try again. Deploy, yes. Let's see if we have more luck this time and if everything is correct. There was a command to test the definition before deploy. There was a command to check
validate,
the template.
right?
Yeah, validate, but we forgot to run it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that it always captures everything. I think it's more making sure that the YAML itself.
In progress.
So that validate might not have catched that particular error.
Okay.
Because it doesn't do like a server-side type of validation. I think it just checks high level that the format is correct, but it doesn't necessarily check that all the values themselves are correct for the specific service.
Failed again. Scheduled expression is not valid. Then I'm stupid. What the
Okay, my suggestion is use rate 30 minutes.
Minuto minutes.
Use singular. I think both might work, but I have an example where they use singular, so let's go with singular.
Okay, singular is it. So how is the validate stuff?
SAM validate, I think it is.
I can do that here.
Meanwhile, there is a question there in the chat. Why the
No,
package?
it won't minutes. Error.
Interesting. Okay, I'm glad that it does validate it. So let's go with minutes. Try to validate it again.
Valid.
Okay, it is happy. So why the package type is zip shouldn't be uploaded as a binary? It's a good question, but it's a specific thing of Lambda. So you either have a package that is a Docker image or you have a zip file. And there are different limitations and behaviors depending what you pick. So in this particular case, it is literally a zip file of the binary file. So in the Rust case, it is effectively a zipped binary. But if this was a JavaScript or a Python, for instance, you would have a bunch of different files in the zip package.
Where is that configuration again? The zip
Which
one? The zip one we are talking about.
It's something that we saw when we were looking in cloud formation.
Ah, okay. No, because I was thinking was something in the template somewhere.
I think
probably
zip is the default. I think it's the default.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you need to specify a Docker image in a different way. Yeah, I don't remember the syntax for that one.
How is the called startup of a Docker image? Depends on the size of the Docker image, probably.
That's an interesting one. So it could be slower, but it could also be faster. And there is an interesting paper from AWS because they created a crazy optimization. So basically, if I understood correctly that paper, what they do, they take your Docker image, they chunk it in blocks of 15, 12 kilobytes, and they cache 15, 12 kilobytes. So it basically means that for common things like, I don't know, in Python, probably everyone is using pandas, and there are like hundreds of files in pandas. You will be able to download a layer, but like almost like it was a layer already from cache. So it might be very, very fast. And that basically means that if you are creating an entirely new image that contains your own files that nobody else uses, it might be slower because you're not taking advantage of any cache. But the more you use it, the more it's going to be cached in the different workers. So eventually it might become fast enough. And if you're creating an image that contains 90% standard things, probably it's going to be very fast straight away. So it's hard to tell whether it's going to be faster or slower. You need to benchmark it and see. But there are.
But for Rust, for example, doesn't make sense to deploy a Docker container with a Rust binary in it.
Yeah, probably no, unless you
come on, why rollback in progress?
Oh, do we need to delete it again?
I deleted it. Why? Parameters
maybe it wasn't fully deleted yet.
We validated.
Oh, sorry. No, my bad. I'm stupid. It's my fault. Every time you change the template, you need to do some build again.
Ah, okay.
So we were still deploying the first version. Sorry.
Okay. So before every SAM deploy, you need to do a SAM build.
Yes. And the reason for that is that if you look at your file system, there is a .sam folder. sorry, AWS SAM. And this is literally what we are deploying. And this contains your package zip and your template. And if you open the template, it is slightly different. So if you do a cut of template YAML,
in where is it, in build?
Somewhere there, let's see. Yeah, there. So I think the part where it references the code, it might be a little bit different. Code URI is not just dot, but it's sync tags, which is probably going to be the name of the folder that is going to be.
Some resource ID was not there.
Yeah, so it might change things depending on what you do.
Okay, and this one is a binary.
This is the binary itself.
Yeah, okay.
So hopefully now we can deploy.
Anyway, back to us. Let's try to...
Yeah, this is a bit of a DX issue. It would be nice if you do some deploy again, if they will tell you something like, oh, it looks like you changed your source code. Do you want to build again?
Yeah,
that would be nice. Yeah,
that would be nice. Yes.
Okay, bye Tommaso, see you next time.
SAM deploy. Let's see if the 5th time is the good one.
Yeah, now we are real cloud engineers. You need to deploy 20 times before it's right.
Do you have experience with SAM? Yes, a lot, with the same function 20,000 times. Does it count?
Yeah, you go from junior to senior in like one stream.
You can do every possible error ever. They should put a -u, like SAM deploy -u, and u does the update or the build or whatever.
Yeah, that would be nice as well. Yeah, generally what I do, I have a command that is literally SAM build and SAM deploy, and I
would add SAM validator at the beginning of it.
Fair enough.
So now here we have this. If we go back to the Lambda, at this point we will have this Lambda and this Lambda that is of type zip. We saw that. Now, finally, as a trigger, not yet. Not yet, because it's still creating the function. Permissions in progress. Okay, still.
Yeah, the first time is always a little bit slow.
Still work in progress. Okay, now we have the event breach event here. Cool. Oh, it's done. We have everything.
Nice.
Let's try to do this test. Let's test here. And test, and let's see. Execution succeeded, and we know what we have because we have an event with time, type, record, on demand. Okay, and this was our event.
Can you scroll down a little bit? In the test event? No, so sorry, the window. A bit more.
Ah, no, this is the payload, the context.
Yeah, what is the payload that was sent?
The default one with 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I thought that AWS was getting smarter. So if you scroll down to the next panel, the white one, so go down. Yeah, you see that you can pick different templates from the drop down there. So there should be something like a schedule. Try to write schedule. Let's see if it gives you something. CloudWatch.
Scheduled event.
Yeah, so that's really something that looks like the event you are really going to receive. So if you wanted, for instance, if you were deserializing this and you were validating that it looked like the right event, in our case, we just set value. So whatever JSON is going to be valid. But if we were actually doing an HTTP request or something like that, you will want to use the real event or the real shape. Otherwise, you would have a validation error.
Okay, the old Lambda that we uploaded by hand this time triggered at least once. Can we see the logs of this one?
Yeah, if you go to monitor there on the tabs next to configuration, you can see the invocations and you should have a link to the logs. So what was the duration? I think it was in the order of like 20 milliseconds, probably.
88 milliseconds.
Okay, it was relatively slow. Generally, Rust is faster.
Ah, yeah, I don't know. It considered the startup also.
Could be.
Lambda Insight or CloudWatch logs?
Logs, CloudWatch logs.
Because we didn't enable Insight.
Yeah, because it comes at extra cost, and I don't know if there is a lot of value for this.
And we are cheap bastards. Yeah.
We are definitely cheap bastards, yes. Okay, now if you click on the top one, you should see all the logs of that invocation.
That was invoked here. Then the event is a Lambda event with an object that is the account, the details, a scheduled event from the region, rule 30 minutes. That is an AWS event, version 0, and the time of invocation 190000. And then there is the context. So yes, this is the event that we got debugged and put in the logs. Okay, cool. So we have something working now. Probably it was time to start writing the real code, but we want to keep this for next time.
Yeah, I think we are way above 1 hour. We are more than 1 hour and a half. So
Yeah.
more than our general stream time, which is 1 hour. But
I would not commit AWS SAM correctly.
No, put it in the ignore, yeah. I'm surprised. I thought it was already there.
Is it already here? No, it's not here.
Okay, somebody can do a contribution to the template.
So now, okay, git ignore, cargo, readme, SAM toml, the template, and the XRC. So let's add everything. We have a bunch of stuff. We still have to create the repository, so we'll add the remote later, and we push everything to a repository.
Yeah, sounds good. So let's wrap it up. Thank you everyone for being with us. Thanks again for the raid, Brookzerker, and thanks everyone who was here and chatted and asked questions and commented. Thank you, Tommaso. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Ilteod. And hopefully you'll join us next time. We generally stream every Monday at 6 p.m. GMT. So in a week time from now. And meanwhile, if you're curious to see all our recordings, we have them on YouTube. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And this is basically it. We are going to do a quick raid. Let's see who is online. Oh, we have CM Griffin, so probably more Rust. So thank you, everyone. Have fun.